Hi everybody, and thanks for coming to this session. I'm delighted to have Fee Ray as our guest coach for today. She has many titles, but she's at the moment Brixton mixed captain. She was a member of the GB Women's squad for last year, and I played GB Women with her at EBUC. She's super knowledgeable and very spirited, as she's also the sick spirit captain and was the spirit captain at EBUC where we won spirit as well. So should be a great session, and yeah, um, get to it.
Amazing. Thanks, Hannah. That was a really lovely introduction. I'm very excited to be here with bears. I actually went to Durham, so I don't have any bears particular knowledge, but I'm very excited to be here. Sorry, that's all your puns. So my session today is on the long game, some like top tips. So we'll start off with like a presentation, a sort of really exciting PowerPoint, and then we'll move into some game examples afterwards, which I think will be the most fun part. But throughout the session, if anyone has like questions or isn't sure if I use some terminology that you don't understand, I completely don't mind. Just feel free to say like with your voice or in the chat. Hannah's going to be watching the chat for me if I miss it. So I will start by sharing a very exciting presentation. Someone say if this has worked.
Yeah.
Amazing. Cool. So today is called In It for the Long Game, top tips on the long game. So why bother? Who cares about the long game? I think one of the key things about the long game is it's a really good way to gain loads of ground. So even if you don't score from it, it's really helpful. It's varied, so you can do lots of different things with it. It's difficult for the D to predict, at least to predict it consistently. And it makes other options easier. So if the D thinks you're going to do a long shot, they'll get quite worried, so it might make the undercut easier. And of course, it's super cool, super impressive, and super fun. So, question, how do you get good at the long game? My favourite way is to just watch other people. So it could be games, obviously maybe not at the moment, or footage. One of my top tips is try it even before you're ready. So this is something I struggled with at the beginning when I was at uni, is I was definitely more of a receiver than a thrower, which is still good. But I'd say whether you're not as confident throwing or not as confident cutting, go for it. Like absolutely, even if you think it's not going to be perfect, because that's the best way to learn. And related, don't think of it as like failing when something goes wrong. Just think of it as learning, because that's how you get good at it. And when stuff goes well, you have permission to be really psyched about it. So that was quite general. How specifically do you get good at the long game? So you can see here I've put loads of different stuff because it is all relevant to the long game. You can have a read of them. There's basically every element of the game. But I will be focusing on a couple of key points. So you might see these, but like positioning, footwork, cutting fakes, throwing fakes, timing, they're all really, really important. Don't stress about it too much, but it's just to say that everything's important in the long game. But my main top tip for the whole day is space. So the long game really relies on having good space. It maximizes your chance of success. It means it's clearer for the throwers and the cutters, and it's really hard to defend if it's a one-on-one situation. So there we go. Okay, so space. What do we mean by space? And at this point, I might throw it open to some of the people here. So if you want to type in the chat, that's cool. If you want to shout out, that's also cool. This is probably the easiest type of space because it's so easy to see. You can see the X's are like the O players. So there's a handler at the front here. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but here. There's the separation, and this is the way the pitch is going. This one's a little bit harder. So you can see that the D is sort of off the player here. Bit of separation, so the space is here, bit of a harder throw, but nice if you can get it. And then this one is probably the hardest type. It's usually the hardest to throw and the hardest to cut. but you can see the different shapes that you can take. When the D is over here, there's space here and here, which means you can do these really nice expansive throws to go over the top and find the space here. Cool. So these tips are particularly for cutters. So when I say cutter, I don't mean like cutter versus hand. I just mean whoever happens to be cutting. I think you can think of it a bit flexibly. So it's really important to work together to give people space and make sure you don't I think we've all seen it when people cut you up. It can be really devastating, but also it means there's no space left for anyone to cut. Commit to cuts. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. So I think even if you know you're not going to get the disc, it can be really helpful just to take the D away from the players. So whatever you're doing, cut with commitment. Anticipation and timing is really important. So it's much easier to throw if everyone is expecting it to come to them next and has time to cut, sorry. And then if you can make it easy for the thrower, that's great. So obviously it's really hard to throw into a mark or just behind a mark. If there's wind, sometimes it's really nice to cut deep, but it can be really, really hard. Okay, so sorry, this is the bit. I'm going to open it up to the floor. So we have some examples of cuts here. There's the dotty line ones. So these two players are the cutters, and they'll be moving together. And I'm interested to see what people think, which one's easier and which one's harder. Any thoughts? I might pick on Hannah if no one else.
Is this harder and easier to throw or easier for the cutting?
Cutting, sorry. This is just for cutting patterns. But if you want to comment on the throw, that's cool too.
I'm not sure.
No, that's cool. So maybe I'll explain it a little bit more. So this is the front of stack, the first X, and the back of stack is the second X with the handler down the bottom here. So if we start off with, we'll start off with the solid line cuts. So say, for example, the front of stack goes first and they cut out and then up towards the end zone, ready to get that amazing score. And then at the same time, this cutter, or just afterwards, this back cutter also cuts into this space. So whilst the cuts by themselves are both really cool, there's loads of space because you can see there's no defenders up in the end zone. As the thrower, if you think about looking at it, you've now got two people in sort of the same space. So it might work. I think it's quite challenging. So especially because they will inevitably bring with them these two circle defenders. I put them in black circles and then the offending players are in sort of like green X's. So that's great. I think it could work, but I think you make it a little bit hard. Basically, the thrower has to be quite good to either get it past this defender, the deep defender, and get it really far deep, or has to get it over all four people right into this corner, which I'm sure there are people who can throw that and it's really, really impressive, but it just means it's a bit harder to get it right. Whereas with the dotty cuts, you can see it's pretty much the same cut. I just didn't want to do it over the same line, but they go deep and they've got all the deep space in the end zone to themselves. And if the back of the stack cuts forward, they've got, well, a nice cutting option on the front, but also critically, they take with them this defender. So it's really great. You've got this whole end zone. It doesn't have to be a score, obviously. Very crowd pleasing when it is. But you've got loads more space. And it means that if the throw goes a little bit awry, as we've all seen, I'm sure, then there's loads of time for the cutter to make up that space. Does that sort of make sense? I'm going to assume yes. Sorry, yeah. I realised it was on mute.
We've got
Thanks,
Dan got a poll up in the chat, and everybody decided that it was the dotted one, so that's good.
Oh, great, amazing! Well done, everybody. That's really cool. Cool. Maybe actually, I'll try and see if I can have a cheeky look at the chat. Oh, thank you who did that. That is beautiful. Yeah. Also, there's no right or wrong answer. So obviously, if those people do both cut, and the thrower's got an insane upwind, major huck, that's super cool. And it may come off. It just means it can make it quite hard and your percentage chance of success can be a little bit lower. So, okay, we've got a few more examples of this. So the next one, still cutting patterns, still easy or hard. And this time we've got like a solid line, a sort of dashy line and a dotty line. So again, they could all work. They might all be fine. If we start with the dotty one, I'll just go through that one first, then the dashy one, and then the solid one. So you can see the X players are the offense, and the sort of, it's confusing, I realised, the O players, the circle players, are the defense. So if we do the dotty line first, you can see there's loads of nice space, there's no defenders deep, so they've got a good cut. If they choose the dotty line, it's great, going to the end zone, really cool, and the thrower can do like a really big loopy backhand, we'll say, if they're right-handed, forehand if they're left-handed. It might work really, really nicely. It does mean, though, that there's the potential that the cutter runs out of space. So you can see when they've finished their cut there, they are quite near the side of the pitch. So again, they might do a really cool, like towing the line, keeping their foot in, really stretching out to catch it. It just means it's a little bit riskier. Then you've got the dashy one, which this time they've just decided to go straight deep, which again, there's no defender there. So I think it's really good, loads of space, really nice. So similar to the last one, there's just not loads of space here. So it might work, but it might also, it could go too long, too short. It could go outside the pitch slightly. And if there's wind, there's a chance that it doesn't come back in the pitch, which is a bit of a nightmare. And then I'd say with the solid line, it looks like a bit more of a complicated cut. But I think it's probably best to think of it as like two cuts. So if you think the first cut under, so they might well get the disc here, which is good. But then if they kind of go directly across the pitch and then go deep, they've created all this extra space wide, so the cutter has loads more space to work with, and the thrower also has loads of potential options. So it's really cool. It gives them loads more margin for error. Again, all of them could work, but it's just potentially thinking about what might be easier or harder.
We had on the poll, we had 6 for the solid one and 2 for the dash one.
Yeah, again, like also if you know that you're like definitely going to catch anything that goes up, then the dotty line may well be for you. That might be the best one for you. But depending on who's throwing, who's catching, you might prefer different options. But yeah, I'd say good shout on the solid line. Cool. And this one is just really to get people to have a little think. So there's 2 dotty lines, 2 dash lines, 1 solid line. And it's just thinking about, so if you do all of these different cuts, have a look at them one by one and think about how the thrower is going to have to be able to get it to you. So you can think of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going across, if that's helpful. I'd say all of these cuts are into space. So the cutter's really identified where the space is, which is really good. All the defenders are underneath, so there's loads of deep space. Might be because it's windy. I think normally the defenders would tend to cover the deep. But if you get given this chance, I'd say go for it. But just think about what the thrower will have to do to get it to you in each of those positions. So if we take the first one, the sort of dotty line that goes across, amazing space, loads of margin for error. But if you look at where the thrower is going to have to throw to get it there, it kind of throws towards the left-hand side of this pitch. So there's another defender that right there. So they could get a nice little block if it's kind of within their range. And equally, it can be quite hard to throw that across people. Similar one for the kind of the second cut, which goes to the back left corner. It might well have to go into this space where the defender is, who's marking the other handler there. But again, it could be really nice if it works. And if it's the straight deep, I'd say they could probably throw either way. So they could throw around the left of the stack or around the right of the stack. But it is quite challenging to throw over people. And then if we go to the fourth one, the sort of the other dotty one, I'd say that's probably one of your more traditional ones. Probably the third one or the fourth one, they could be the same kind of cut. You can go straight and then come across towards the disc, or you can go straight across. Those are probably 2 of the easier ones, I'd say, the ones that have the best chance of success. And then if you look at the 5th cut, that's also a good option. It might mean, though, that because the defenders are that side, it can be quite challenging to throw deep enough to avoid them. We have a cheeky look at the chat. Cool. Okay, so most people have gone for C and D. Oh yeah, amazing. A, B, C, D, E. That's good too. So yeah, I'd say that is a great shout. Great shout. And it may be useful to think of probably cuts C and D as quite similar cuts, because you can sort of start off going straight and then come across, which gives you as a catcher a bit more margin for error as well. Okay, thrower specific tips. I have slightly fewer of these, probably because I'm more of a cutter than a thrower. But I would say that you don't have to be like a technically good, and that's like an inverted commas, thrower to be good at the long game. You can equally have loads of little passes that go down the break side, or you can have like lots of medium-sized passes. They don't have to be like show-stopping, highlight reel type stuff. It's good to recognize the conditions. So if you're a thrower and you know that you're really good at throwing into the wind or downwind, that could work to your benefit. But it could also be the other way around. So if you struggle in the wind, then you might want to think about how long you take, like how long the options are that you take. Sometimes the sun is like a good thing to bear in mind. So if you know that the cutter is going to have to like really look into the sun to catch it, it can be really challenging. I've seen a few drops happen that way in really big games, which obviously it's not really anyone, there's no one to blame, but it's if you can help your teammates as much as possible, that's really cool. And then yeah, like I said, if you're good at particular throws and you know that you've got them, then that can really work in your favor. As a thrower, it can be quite hard to see where the D players are, so I think that's a skill that you learn over time. But what I'd say is if you're about to do a throw, it's always worth a little check to see where the D players are, just so you avoid sort of throwing it directly into a D player who's just sort of well positioned or has been lucky in where they are. And then my final key point for throw specific tips is it's always good to sort of have in the back of your mind the percentage chance of success. So for example, if you think it's like 50-50, but it's going to go the whole pitch and you're playing downwind and you've got like a few on the scoreboard, you're leading, you're winning your game. It's less of a problem than if it's in like a sudden death match where any turnover is really vital. So like you can always bear in mind there's things that work in your favor, things that work against you. And if it's sort of a good calculation, I'd say go for it. Okay, so these are sort of similar to the cutting patterns from before, but they're focusing on throwing. So we've got two different ones, the dashes and the dots. So this is a little bit about what I was talking about earlier. Like you don't have to be an amazing long thrower to throw a really good long game. So instead of doing one long throw, it could actually be like 3 little throws or 3 smaller throws and still be just as good as the long game. So just have a look at these 2 little ones. I think everyone will have different preferences about whether they go for the dashes or the dots. And I'd say they probably actually have similar chances of success or failure, but it's good to think about what you would prefer, because if you prefer the sort of dashy long throw, so this is the throw on the far right hand side, and then it's the deep cutter who's cutting into the end zone in this example. That might be really great, but it means that you have to rely on the defense not getting it, and there not being any sort of wind or anything to take you down. Live poll results, it's very close, 4-2. 4 people prefer a dotted. Cool, yeah, that's my personal preference, but don't let that, if you like the dashes, go for it. But yeah, the good thing about the dotty ones is you can see, especially in this example, I've put the defender on this other handler. They're slightly up the pitch, so you've actually got a really easy throw. Of course, both of these could be options. So your first option could be the dashy one. And then if that's not on, you can always take the second option, which is the dotty lines. And then because the cutters will obviously be anticipating, because they're amazing at the long game, the first cutter will be cutting into this lane on the left-hand side of the pitch, right in time for this thrower to throw to them before the defenders can react. And then the second cutter can go deep again before the defenders have time to react. So both of them work, and they might be easier or harder depending on your personal preferences. Amazing. Cool. Okay, yeah. So most people seem to prefer the dotted one, which I think is really good because it's a really good way for the team to all work together and everyone to get a chance to work on the disc and to score. Cool. Okay, so we're going to move on to game footage. The game that we'll be showing is it's a really incredible US mixed game. It's called The Color of Ultimate. A few things I should say, like sort of disclaimers. The players in this are all amazing, but they're not actual teams that train together on a regular basis. Some of them actually play mixed, some of them don't play mixed, so some of them will play women's or open. Also, they don't publish their tactics or anything, so we don't actually know what they're trying to achieve. So when I'm saying like stuff is good or bad, it might not be that I've got the same idea of what they're trying to achieve. We also don't know the exact weather conditions, so what way the wind is going and stuff. And they do play US rules, which are slightly different. So if you see some stuff that's maybe like slightly different to what you're used to, don't worry too much about it. And for anyone who wants to watch the whole game, it is on YouTube, like for free, so you can watch it in its full glory. We're only going to look at the first half just because there's actually so many examples that I think if we did the whole game, we'd be here for a really long time. And just to let you know, in the spirit of honesty, all of the views on the game are just my views. So like, if people have different views, do not worry about it. And also, I'm not the only source on the long game, so bear that in mind. Okay, so let's see. What I'm going to try and do for each of these clips is, depending on how well I can technically do it, is play it once, just normal speed, we can all watch it, and then play it slightly slower a second time. And then just people can share a few thoughts about what they think about each clip. So whether they think the throws were good, the throws were bad, the cuts were good, the cuts were bad, and what the players did with spaces and whether that was good. Oh yeah, I've just put here, I think watching games, especially high-level games, can be a really useful way to improve your long game. I think because they have such creative options and you can learn really quickly from some of the like best players in the world. So here we go, let's try this. Ooh. Oh, you know what, actually. Sorry, one moment, technical difficulties. Yes, there we go. Okay. Oh, bear with. Sorry, I'm having to review the the stream. Okay, so I think what I might do. What should I share? I might just share my entire screen. No, I'll share YouTube. Okay, here we go. Sorry, one more. And then the first clip is 154. Just to check with everyone, how is that? Is that too small? Does it need to be bigger? Just write in the chat or shout if anyone has any opinions. Cool, right. I'll keep going, but if anyone has any thoughts, let me know. We'll mute it, and then we'll start at yeah. Cool. Okay, ready. Here is clip number 1. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to just replay it and play it slightly slower so everyone can see it sort of, and make sure to try and look at different stuff. So if you were just looking at where the disc was, maybe this time try looking at what the other players on the pitch are doing. Oh wait, sorry, I'll rewind it. 154. Oh, okay, slow-mo, here we come. Cool. Okay, so does anyone have any initial thoughts on, it doesn't have to be like particularly eloquent, just like pop something in the chat or say it out loud. I absolutely don't mind. Did you think it was like good stuff, bad stuff? Did you think the throwers took good options? What did you think of the cutting shapes that people made? And were they using the space and stuff well? So go for it, like no judgment whatsoever. The lights were a bit scared of them going deep. Yeah, fair point. That is good. Yeah, literally chuck anything in the chat. And if you're not going to put anything in the chat, just have a think about the kind of stuff that you saw, what you maybe would have done differently, or would you have done stuff the same? What did you like? But yeah, like I say, even if you don't put stuff in the chat, just have a think about it while we're watching it. I'll just play it one more time, I think, so we can see it. And this is going to be slow-mo as well. Okay, just gonna take it back. Cool. Okay, so quite slow at clearing out. Yeah, that's good. And I'll just give it like 10 more seconds for people to put any comments in if they want to. They don't really seem to be working together. Yeah. Amazing. Cool. Okay, I'm going to take it through and just with my thoughts. So like if they're not exactly your thoughts, don't worry. We have got one more. There were some attempts at deep. Keeping an eye on this and coming back if not going. Yeah, cool. Okay, so what I would say for this clip is, so we start off, and I might pause it. So I have a really bad habit of doing frame by frame stuff. So you can see this first cut, like you can see the separation here. There's number, I think it's number 31, is about to cut under, and you can see that's a really great option because his defender is deep. So there's loads of space in front, which is, so it's a good first option. And the thrower takes the option. And then you can see, sorry, I've paused it again. So the guy with the orange shoes, number I think 40 something, is about to go deep. And admittedly, his defender is deep. So there's not necessarily space, but it might be that he knows he's super fast and he's going to outrun this person. But also he's making quite a convincing cut. But you can see as the person has caught the disc, they're already running long in anticipation of doing a cut. So it's really good in terms of timing / anticipation. And then he does fake to come under. The cut's a little bit of an odd shape, so the thrower doesn't take it. And then they take it back. You can see here, so the disc is down the front on the right-hand side of the screen, but if you look the far left of the screen, there's someone coming in quite fast. They look like they're in a good position to receive an underthrow. But you can see where they're about to cut, there's already somebody there. So the person who just threw, which I think is fair enough, they haven't quite had time to react yet. But watch what happens as the person tries to cut under. So you can see they both have to avoid running into each other, which is a bit of a shame because actually I think if one of them or both of them had taken different options, this player who's on the sideline could have cut into the middle of the pitch and done a really nice long cut, and this person could have had the wide sideline as they were cutting under. So you can see they're about to clash. It's really brutal. Oof. And then the thrower does take that option, which works. But I think it's a little bit of a scarier, riskier option. And it does mean that then there aren't particularly many options downfield. You see that person stuck in that space. There's another person cutting in from the deep, and they're all in the same space. So it's a little bit of a nightmare. I think some of you made that point quite nicely in the chat. So yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare. But in their defense, I suppose it's the first point of the game and they don't all necessarily know each other. So I think we'll let them off, but I think there's a few things they could have done slightly better. And so we'll take it to, the second clip starts right away actually. So I'll just keep playing, play at normal speed. And so when you're watching it, just have a think. You'll see it twice, once normal, once half speed. Have a think about what they're doing well, what's not going so well, and then just pop any thoughts in the chat or say them out loud if you fancy. And if not, just have a think internally about what's going on. Whoa! So I'm just gonna bet one more time, normal speed actually, because it's such a good catch. Yes. Okay, one more time, and we'll do it slow. Cool. I'm just going to have a little spy on the chat and see. Say things. So any thoughts, feel free to, like, judgment free. Cool. First point, thrower's force wasn't close, so could have put it to any area of the end zone. Yeah, got to choose their favorite throw. That's good. Yeah, I don't know any of these players particularly well, but I mean, that thrower clearly has a very nice forehand. So fair enough, go for it. Just wait like a few more seconds, final thoughts, and then we'll take it through sort of very slowly. Yeah, nice. Cool. Okay, we'll just go back and take it through. So my first point, I think about, where are we? 212 speed. So my first point is often we look at the long throw, the last throw for the long game, which is always, really impressive and really cool. But what I think sometimes gets overlooked is how good all the players in advance of that throw have worked. So this player who has the disc is like in so much space, has clearly made an amazing cut and has identified where the space is, which allows us to get this really nice throw across the pitch where there's loads and loads of space. And then you can see, I think someone made this point in the chat actually, this person who's cutting long has got a tiny bit of separation here. So the space is good, and they take advantage of it. The thrower identifies that, I think, pretty quickly, which is nice. And I would say actually probably there's also a backhand option here. So if backhand is your favorite throw, I'd say it's a good option. And like someone pointed out in the chat, there is the defender is quite far away, the marker on the thrower, so you probably have loads of different options, especially the sort of wide right and wide left. But maybe they have a better forehand, who knows, and they just go for it. You can see this player who's cutting deep has really good separation. They're really getting distance between their mark, which is going to make it really hard to defend, as we can see. And I think the defender actually gives up because they think it's going outside the pitch. That would maybe be my one note is they've thrown really far. So, I mean, it did work in this case, but that is an incredible catch. So they had to work super hard for that. I'd say maybe could have thrown it slightly less deep, but I mean, it worked, so I won't be too critical. But yeah, and also if we just go back very quickly, all the other players on the pitch as well have done a great job of letting that person take the space. So you can see there's two cutters who are on the far sideline here. and it would have been really easy for them to do a cut deep when they saw this thrower get the throw, but both of them actually don't cut deep, which means that this cutter has all of the space that they need, which is a really nice thing to do and means that you can have a really nice long game sort of as a team. And just one more time because it's such a good catch. Something to aspire to, you know. Oof. But yeah, incredible. So the next one. So yeah, again, just have a think about what you see. I'll play it through twice so you have a chance to look at loads of different stuff if you fancy, and then let me know what you think. So I am going to play the rest of this clip in a minute, but I've broken it down into two parts. So that's part one. And just have a think about what they do well or what they do badly, what you would have done differently. And feel free to pop it in the chat. Yeah, power position. It is a really nice pop pass. It puts the hander in such a good power position. That's a really nice point. So they had an option to go deep, but someone on D was kind of in the way in the lane. Really good to identify that. And I think we talked a little bit about it earlier, like your percentage chances. So like, sure, you can probably get it if there's a defender in the way, but also you might not. And it can be a bit of a riskier option. So 344. Cool. Okay, so here we go. One thing I would actually point out just to begin with, the spacing that everyone has here is quite nice. So you can see, maybe not specifically for the immediate long game, but maybe for the longer long game. So in a minute when they do the long game, they've really isolated this huge amount of space. So there's loads of space. You can see between like the numbers that say 40 and 30 at the front of the screen. There's like nobody there. There's loads of space for the cutters to play with. And people aren't really cutting each other up, which is really nice. It's always great. They're using the full width of the pitch. They've got loads of different options. They take this really nice throw, which is, it gains loads of ground. So it's maybe not a like really impressive long throw, but it's pretty good. One more, what's happened here? Apologies. Cool. You can see that there's a defender that very nearly gets that. So I'm just going to take it back. I think it's skipped a little bit. So this defender is on the 30 line, the far side of the pitch. The thrower maybe hasn't quite seen them or doesn't realize how close they are. I'd say it's a slightly riskier option, but it does come off. She nearly gets it there, but it's good. And then the thrower who's just received the disc does a really nice job of recognizing, because the defender has sort of overcommitted, then that other player is really free, pops it straight off. So nice. And then they have the chance to take it through the middle of the pitch. And then really nicely. And this is my favorite bit, I think. Oh wait, no, I haven't showed you that bit yet. We'll go back to normal speed. My apologies. So this is the second part of the same play. So I'll just show it to you once normal time, once slow, and then we'll chat through it. Boom. Okay. Okay, ready. This is the slow version. Cool. So if anyone has any thoughts that they want to share, just pop them in the chat. I'll give you like, I don't know, 10 seconds or so, and then we will go through it. Or how to say 2 people are cutting into the same space deep, which isn't ideal, but they are both free. Very, very true. And completely by accident, that was an example we used earlier. So like I say, it can work, but maybe it's slightly riskier. The attackers were doing a really good job of rotating into space. Yeah, I think that's very, very true. The handler did travel a little bit. Yeah. So I don't know the US rules. I will put my hands up. I don't know if maybe they're a little bit less strict on travels or something. Or maybe it didn't affect particularly the throw. But yeah, good eye. I didn't see that myself, but good spot. It's a good example of how horizontal makes the deep game easier. Yeah, so horizontal, when they're all stacked across the pitch rather than vertically, it can be really nice for creating deep and under space. Not travel if it's not called. Fair enough. Cool. Okay, so my thoughts. Whoever just made the point about horizontal, yeah, you can see the space is really nice. They're all kind of cluttered in the middle of the pitch at first sight, but you can see they've got all the space under, and you can't see it. Sorry, the camera angle's not perfect. You can't really see the deep space, but there's loads of space up there. So they've all got really good spacing, position. Now this, I would start off by just saying this maybe doesn't look very impressive, but I think is the most impressive thing in this point, is the person who is the furthest back white shirt person, on the sort of like 35-yard line, notices that their mark is sort of like poaching in the lane. So they are the sort of really far away from her, and they're actually causing loads of trouble for the thrower. And what she decides to do is cut around the back, which is amazing because the defender's super far away. This throw is really easy. And then if she wanted, if there was like a good cut, it could be an immediate deep pass, and there's loads of space. So sort of an underrated hero here. I think she does the best. That is the best cutting response in the entire point. I know the deep shot's really impressive, but I would say that don't underestimate that, because I think that cut is what makes the whole long point possible. But then we have these two players time their cuts really nicely. So they see that they're both running into the same space. One comes under, one goes deep. And you can see there's a bit of separation. So the one cutting under has loads of separation, which is great. That'll be the person who's throwing has already decided to throw it, which is good. And the person who's about to cut deep with the orange gloves in the middle of the pitch, you can see they've got a bit of like width separation that we talked about earlier. So although they're on the same line, they're not right next to each other. So the thrower has some options. I would also say, so someone mentioned this, but the far side of the pitch, you can see someone else is already cutting deep. So we'll see what happens. Watch the cutters who are going deep. Try not to watch the thrower. I know it's really tempting, but you can see as they go. I would say in an ideal world, it might have been best for sort of one of them to go and one of them to come under. But like Hannah said, it does work, so I'm not going to be too critical. yeah, they're just off screen, but you can see I'm not actually 100% sure who the thrower was aiming at. It could have been either of them, really. But the good thing in this situation is I think they recognise that the guy on the left probably has a slightly better position to attack the disc, so there's not any confusion. But I think in a perfect world, maybe if at this point, sort of maybe slightly earlier, at this point, maybe if we'd realised, oh, only one of these people should cut deep, or maybe if the person on the far sideline had stayed slightly wider, it would have made sure the defender had no option to defend the disc. But yeah, I would say it's very nice. There's good separation, great timing, and it comes off, so it does work really nicely. Boom. Nice, okay. Next one. 519. Cool. Okay, next one. Here we go. Normal speed. Let me see. I think I might have actually not. Am I playing you the whole clip? No. Okay, I'm just going to play that bit. I know it's tempting to want to watch to the whole goal, but this is the main important part. Because we are talking about the long game. So half speed. Here we go. And I might just pause it so you can have a good look at where everybody is at certain points, because like I said, the camera angle is a little bit tricky. Okay, what did everybody think? Nice long game? Could have done anything better? What did people see? Yep, the defence recovers quite well. I think this is often the case, like the long play, sometimes it results in a goal, but sometimes it's like you get right to the end zone line and then it's actually really hard to score from that point. Yeah, a bit about seeing where your marker is. Okay, so we will take it back. That's good. That's one of the points I want to make, actually. So I'm sorry, I'm going to be really annoying and do that thing where I pause it all the time. But so this is good. Firstly, this thrower recognises there's someone completely unmarked in what could be a sort of power position. They'll probably have to turn around, but it's really nice. No mark, ideal for the long cut. Like they could go anywhere. What's really good about this is specifically a cutter. Obviously, the throwers they can do whatever they want, so that's great. If you see number 99, I think it is at the back of the stack. So this is where one of the minor points I mentioned earlier, footwork, is amazing for the long game. It's not going to be a focus of today because I think it's really hard to do to talk about. But if you just see what she does, so she does a sort of fake deep. So it seems like she's going to go under. And then the second she sees her defender's like movement forward to stop the under, she knows she's got her. And you can see the defender's even turned fully around, which is amazing. This is such good footwork. And you can see just the position of this cutter's body. They are going so fast. They are going to absolutely nail it deep. And what's really good as well is this other cutter like recognizes what is happening, sees the long throw and the long cut is about to happen, and goes with, but not in a way that brings the defender into the play, in a way where she's going to be supporting the next throw, the next cut. So you can see they're sort of alongside each other. And yeah, the defense really recovers well, so you can't really fault them on that. But that is some beautiful long game. I'm just going to show the footwork one more time because it is sensational. And again, I think something you might not recognize just by watching a highlight reel, but watch what her feet do. Oh, absolutely done. And it's a really good throw as well. Super like execution right into where the space that she's running to is. The separation is amazing. So yeah, that's an amazing deep game. Right. Yeah, oh yeah, I bet she has done ladders. I'm sure she has. My God. Cool. So the next one, I'm going to skip a little bit ahead. Nine. Back to normal speed. Sorry, it's a bit fiddly, but here we go. Okay. Cool. Oh, I'm going to show you the whole thing. Cool. So it's quite similar to the last one in terms of the sort of timing of what happens and the fact that it goes almost to the end zone, but not quite. And then it's like a little pass to get it in. And I will just show it in slow-mo. Here we go. Oh, so easy, that last throw. Boom. Cool. So if you've got thoughts, just pop them in, write them down, and then we will go through the whole thing. Yeah, that I don't know how that player gets that fast. It's amazing. Yeah, defender's a little slow. D. Yeah, I think I'd say the D giving up is probably a symptom of the O doing so well that they've just absolutely battered them. Yeah, true. You'll see this in a minute, but the person who ended up scoring decided to be like 100%. I trust that the catcher's going to get it. It was quite underthrown. Yeah. He didn't look for the threat, instead went for, yeah, I think they maybe went for the risky sky because they thought it was going to be in the end zone, maybe. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's quite far. Yeah, the other cutter did pull her defense in. They could have moved across a little bit. Oh, whoops. Okay, so interesting. Okay. Right, we'll do it one more time and I will talk over it. Sorry but yeah, if you have any other thoughts, feel free to note them down. So this is where they start. They've all a really nice stack. You very rarely see this, I find, in a lot of ultimate games. They're all in a nice stack. Some of them start cutting. I think this undercut, it looks like the D have been quite slow to set up maybe. So this player number 8 recognizes no one's marking her. So she takes this really nice cut here. The thrower throws it really wide into space, which is nice. The D maybe has a little look on that, but they don't get it, so that's good. And then you can see, so at this point, the cutter, who's in the middle of the pitch, the one who's super rapid, doesn't have a lot of separation, but as we're about to see, is very fast, so knows it's fine. The thrower doesn't have a force on at the moment, so there's a load of options up for grabs. And then we've also got this other player on the near sideline, between the 45-yard line, who is going to cut deep as well, as we'll see. So the thrower does a really nice, I think they realise there's no one else deep, so they've got loads of margin for error deep. They absolutely nail it long. Someone mentioned this is a really long throw, so it It's maybe slightly riskier, especially because it looks like it's maybe a bit windy. But I think they've decided, there's loads of margin for error. I'm going to go for it. Like someone else mentioned in the chat, number 13 here could have maybe stayed a bit wider, but I guess as we'll see, the throw ends up coming to this side of the pitch, so it's probably more that they couldn't really avoid it. And this is an amazing sky, so I think the percentages were maybe not quite as good for this long shot, but it comes off, so it is incredible. And then because they've all committed, this is just such a super nice, easy throw. So actually the long game didn't result in a score immediately, but it definitely did result in a score. Really good. Amazing. Oh, nightmare. Sorry, technical difficulties. I've just minimized the chat and I'm a bit of a Discord noob. Let me just get it back up. Fell across the slides that way. Yeah, that is. So if anyone's like sort of keen on watching international players, the thrower there is Cardenas. She's super famous. She's really good. So to be fair, she's probably taken that throw because she knows she's gonna get it. But she's really good. If you want to look her up, she's a really good one to watch. Makes a lot of highlight reels. It's really good, really impressive. Okay, next example. Oh, sorry, I've just realized, Hannah, it's 4. I can stop. Basically, I can share this presentation. It has a load of different links on, but this, I think we're only on example number 7. I'll do one more example. How does that sound? And then I'll send round the presentation that has loads of different examples on. And if anyone has questions or whatever, they can get in touch with Hannah via me via Hannah or me directly if you want to. And I'm happy to talk over anything. How does that sound? Is that okay?
Yeah, no, that sounds great. I mean, I'll be up for sitting here for longer, but
yeah, that's cool. But yeah, so basically it's just as a pro tip for the long game, I think genuinely one of the best ways is to just watch other people do it, especially now when you've got the time. It's a really good way to that is someone's just shared the Cardenas twins. I think they're twins. They're just both really, really impressive and play at a high level. They're worth checking out. I would also recommend watching the whole of this game because it is really good. And there's so many examples of just really good long play and actually other stuff, if you're interested in just improving your game as a whole. So cool. Last clip we'll do. Oh, I'm wondering if I should pick one of my favorite clips. Okay, yeah, I might change the clip I'm going to do if we're just going to do one more. Bear with, I'm just going to find which one it is because I haven't labeled them helpfully. It's another player who's quite famous internationally. She's called Mosquera. She plays with the Cardenas twins, so she's really good. It is sort of she's just very good at long throws, so it is maybe for those of you who just prefer to do long throws, it's for you. Let's see.
We looked at some of her throws on Wednesday when we did a session on pulling, and she's very good at pulling. So
yes, she does a lot of pulls in this game very impressively. So yeah, she's a bit of a hero. Right, so 1, 2. Wish I'd labeled my favorite Mosquera one. What a nightmare. I think it might be this one. Is it this one? Get through the whole game until we find her. Oh, she's on this one. This might be the one. Okay, sorry. Nearly there, nearly there. Is it this one? Yes, I think it's this one. Okay, here we go. Is it? If it's not this one, I'll just play this one anyway because, oh no, it's not her, but this is also really good. Okay, so 59. 7. Sorry. Okay, here we go. Boom. Oh, it is her. Yes. Whoosh. Cool. Okay, so feel free to, I'm going to play at half speed. Feel free to put your thoughts in the chat. Obviously, I think we can take for granted she's amazing as a point for this play, but feel free to write anything if you want to. Spicy. Yeah, it's spicy. A little bit spicy. Yeah, it's a good read from. So yeah, although the throw is amazing and we all love mascara, the cutter does a really good read on this disc. So it just kind of goes to show how everything's important in the long game. So I'll just quickly then. Sorry, I know I'm over time. Before. So just in terms of like, we'll set this up. You can see actually the cutter who ends up getting this, you can see she's right here on the 45-yard line. So actually, like she doesn't necessarily look like the person who's maybe going to get this long disc, because there's the guy in the orange shoes over there who's already deep. And there's this guy coming under with the white shoes who looks like he's going to get the disc. He's in this space. There's a guy in the middle of the pitch who's free. So arguably, maybe not the best option if you don't back the throws, or you want to do something slightly safer. There are loads of options, but you can see there's amazing separation actually here with this cutter, and they've done a really nice job of keeping wide, which I think is something important to bear in mind. And then they've really noticed the D isn't paying attention to them. I think Mascara identifies that, and she sees there's loads of people all over the pitch. So actually the main option is like height and depth. So she does one of the slightly harder, like cross the pitch, really high throws. It's super like amazing vision. You can see there is a defender who nearly gets it, but it does come off. That's an amazing read and super impressive. And everyone's super happy. Yay. But cool. So that's I'm gonna stop. Say I'm gonna stop sharing. Yes. Yeah, so the Fraser curves. Yeah, so it is a bit of a less conventional curve. It's a bit more spicy, but it is really good because it kind of finds where the space is. I will try to share. If there's any problems with accessing that, just let me know. But the very last slide in that is all the examples like that I've highlighted for the game. Obviously, you can watch it yourself, like pick out your own favorite points. But there's some links for analysis at the end with timings if you're interested. And thank you very much. This was really fun. And let me know if you've got any questions.
Thank you so much, Pete. Yeah, I've just clicked on it and it seems great to open, so that's great. Yeah, thanks
Amazing.
for such a in-depth look at the long game and different aspects of it. It was really interesting, and to get introduced to a really good game as well. I haven't watched all of that game and it looks really interesting with loads of great players in it as well, so I might take a look at more of the clips for that, which will be good. But yeah, thanks so much for coming. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Thanks for all of the comments, everybody, and getting in the chat and putting down what you think. That's always super helpful. So yeah, this will be, this is being recorded.